Well, the fourth magisterial district, and I think this is going to be the closest one of the bunch, and it's just because both of them are very well known. You've got Jeff Lear and David Shields, and I think this is David's third or possibly fourth shot at running. So
Yeah.
David is well known in the district. So
Yes, he is.
So I think that's if there's any, to me, a 50-50 race, that would probably be the one.
I think it would be probably the closest one of the magisterial races.
Okay, and Jeff, I mean, you've been in for a term now. I guess are you pleased with what you've seen with Jeff?
Absolutely, absolutely pleased with Jeff. Very, very accessible, even though I don't live in his district. And you know, Jeff has worked on some property rights issues with planning and zoning, to where that they actually can't come on your property now without you not knowing about it, going around your backyard and looking at things. And these are very important property rights issues. Jeff is very dedicated to his constituents. He's very dedicated, to the Constitution of the state. And I know David Shields. I know his family. I grew up next door to his family.
Yeah.
I like him. I like his family. If I had to choose a person to govern for me, it would definitely be Jeff Lear.
All right. Well, before we get away from this real quickly, is there any burning issues you see in the county right now? Now, you just mentioned planning and zoning. Well, we'll get to them in just a second, but just one more on planning and zoning. And also, I know we had an issue just a few weeks ago about gun rights possibly in the city, just different things of that nature, and the county's involved in. Is there any big burning issues that we really need to be talking about, or is it things are just relatively quiet, you believe? Or is it?
I'll refer.
Did you see anything like I said, planning and zoning, everybody constantly, planning and zoning is the one I hear most complaints about. And so I don't know if it's an issue that, I guess my biggest question is not necessarily the issue, but you talked about it a few minutes ago, both of you did, about accessibility. Do we have magistrates that are listening to us, and is that the most important issue here, or is the most important issue issues? Is it people or issues? I guess roundabout way of getting to a long question.
Well, let's take planning and zoning, for example. That's always a touchy subject because somebody's ox is going to get gored. Mm-hmm. We have a love-hate relationship with planning and zoning. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, it has helped us with planning our city. It's helped us with having a downtown that is vital and viable and open for business. We have beautiful historic homes that I'm proud to bring people to see, to walk up and down the streets. But having said that, in order to achieve that, there are limitations on things that you can do and things you cannot do. Now, all of us have our initial reaction is, my property, I ought to be able to do what I want to do on it. But that's not quite true, because your rights only go as far as so far, and then you have to consider the whole area and what it will mean in the long run. What you have to look down the road. Are you setting a precedent for deterioration of the area? So I think you're always going to have those issues because of the nature of the beast. But where would we be without historic zoning? Where would we be without the planning that has gone into making us, yes, the most beautiful small town in America?
But we get into that, I know you mentioned several times about the Constitution, obviously, and property rights and freedom of speech. When they got a sign ordinance, that all comes into play.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Property owners are the first environmentalist, because if I own property and you're, putting poison in the river that's affected my cattle, I should have a problem with that, and I have every right to have a problem with that. So property owners are really the first environmentalist. But where I have issue is when we have ordinances that are too long and too complicated for somebody running a business really doesn't have time to read 50 pages worth of sign ordinance. You can get them down to 8 or 9 pages. I've seen other states do that. Wisconsin, there was a city in Wisconsin, got it down to 9 pages, and they were voted one of the most beautiful cities in Wisconsin. So I think that they need to be clear, they need to be concise, and, you know, everybody likes to beat down on planning and zoning and the officials in planning and zoning, but really it's up to elected officials that write these ordinances, that pass these ordinances. They really need to take responsibility for when these ordinances don't work, instead of, you know, maybe dumping it on you know, some other individual, or just, you know, not sitting down and looking at the law and rewriting and talking about these issues with business owners.
All right. Well, that's basically what I want to touch upon. Is there are issues that, you know, that we need to be looking at out there, and we've got politicians that are working on them. We need to hold their feet to the fire on occasion and ask them some tough questions. We got one more race we want to talk about, and I know all those races that could or could not be political, but it's the PVA race. We got Barbara Tishner and Donna Molyneux running for that one, and you've known Donna for several years, and is she somebody that we could possibly look at as a PVA?
She is very detail oriented, and she's extremely qualified, and she is somebody that will help people, you know, get out and get, you know, like the Homestead Exemption. She wants to actively pursue letting people know who qualify for the Homestead Exemption. I think Donna's going to be a tough candidate, and I think that, you know, as PVA, I think she would, you know, do good things with the office. You know, Miss Titchener, I don't know when the last time she actually had a live race, so this is actually kind of interesting to watch, to see, you know, just how a PVA race actually is conducted, because I've never seen one.
You actually have to take a test, I believe, before you even qualify to run for PVA.
Yes, you do.
So,
yes, you do. I mean, it is an office of enormous significance and importance to the homeowner, to the town. So you really need to know what you're doing in doing that job. And Barbara has been in office several years. She does, as far as I know, meticulous work. And you know, I don't foresee her having much problem.
Okay, well, we got several unopposed races this year. You got Sam Hutchins in District 2 Magistrate, Jerry Hahn in District 5, and of course Matthew Hyde is County Attorney, Elaine Filiatro is County Clerk, and Dorcas Figg is Jailer. And we got several other races we're not going to talk about here tonight, because tonight we've got you two here tonight, and we're not going to talk about the nonpartisan races, which there are several on the ballot, and including a judge race that I'm not familiar with at all. I mean, I'm not even sure what the title is to the judge's
I think
race.
it's appellate court judge.
Appellate court judge.
Yes, well, I can tell you a little bit
Tell us a little bit about that before we want to, because that's one race that I'm sort of, I know pretty much what they do. I know the two candidates running, but that's about it.
Well, it's the District 3, Division 1 of the Court of Appeals. There are 7 districts, and there are 2 judges from each, elected from each district. The incumbent is Judge Mike Caperton. And he has been in for, one term, 7 years. He's running for re-election. He lives in London. He has 2 daughters, 20 and 21 years old. And his range of hobbies makes me tired just to listen to. He scuba dives and bikes and parachutes and pilots a plane and kayaks, and so very active individual. He has been to Bardstown a number of times, and just, I'm familiar with him and like him.
Well, I've met his opponent a few times, and her name, you remember what her name is right off the bat? I've got it written somewhere, but I can't remember where.
It's Deborah Lambert.
Deborah Lambert, that's right.
She's from Mount Vernon.
Okay, well, I've met her a few
And
times,
she's
I
a
don't know a lot about her.
She's a former family court judge.
Okay.
But I know that Judge Caperton has been in charge of over 2,000. He has ruled on, because they take cases. What the appellate court does is they take cases that have been appealed from a lower court, and they review the case for any impropriety or something, error or irreversible error, any of those things. A panel of 3 judges do that, And so he has been involved in over 2,000 cases, so he has experience.